We've got 1 minute to go. That knocking noise. After I introduce you, do you want me to go straight to the slideshow, or do you want to?
Yeah, you can get onto this slide. I will be able to control the slides from my own laptop, right?
I'm just going to control whether the screen is showing slides or video.
Okay. Yeah, so as soon as you finish the introduction, let this slide be there, and then after that, I will control the slide movement.
Okay, you will be on screen while I do your introduction, but then I'll change it to slide.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to start the session now.
Okay.
Welcome back. Now we have a different flavor for the morning. A very exciting presentation I've certainly been looking forward to personally. I'd like to introduce to you Hemant Shah. Hemant is a speaker, an innovator, a humanitarian, and as one of our attendees referred to him, the man with the very kind eyes. After receiving multiple degrees in technology disciplines, he was in the jewelry business for over 25 years. In fact, he started a business called Unidesign Jewelry, which he ran for 16 years. And he's been a member of the Gem and Jewelry Export Promotion Council for over 7 years. And I think you're going to have a lot of fun seeing his take on the jewelry industry and things that we should be thinking about. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Hemant. I'm going to bring your slides up on the screen and you take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. I don't even know where you're located, but certainly there are people from all over the world. And it's an honor to be speaking to all of you today. As you can see from the screen, my topic today is about responsibility, ethics, and managing the natural ecosystem. Originally, I planned on talking on something else, but after the COVID and after seeing how the ecosystem has adjusted itself because of the lifestyle changes that we have undertaken, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about this. When we normally talk of responsibility, we talk of ethics, we talk of transparency, but I think responsibility goes way beyond that. And I don't know how many of you all have noticed it, but in India, especially in Mumbai, we have certainly noticed the difference in the pollution levels, in the greenery levels, in the amount of birds and the different kinds of birds we see. And it tells me that the ecosystem also needs to be a very, very serious part of our responsibility, all the lists that we make in our life. So I am going to touch on various aspects today about how business, a profitable business, can be run without compromising on any of the ethics and the management of the natural ecosystems that one needs to undertake. So I am going to talk of things like ethical sourcing. I am going to talk of things like fair trade. And I'm also going to talk majorly about how to keep the traditional crafts alive. We always wore jewelry, but that jewelry at that time was made without harming the nature. And even today, I will take you through one of the collections that I prepare for my company, which is green, and which uses nothing that is chemical-based or petroleum-based. And yet, it is all manufactured using the lost wax casting process. So that's what we are going to do today. So what is responsibility? There are various kinds of responsibilities. One is the legal, corporate, professional responsibility. This one tends to do immaterial because otherwise it has repercussions which will directly affect your livelihood and your bread and butter. Then we have collective and corporate social responsibility, which we again practice more easily, more frequently, if I may use that word, because of peer pressure of some kind or the other. And then finally, we have the moral, the environmental, and the social responsibility, which for some reason tends to take the bottommost rung of the ladder of different kinds of responsibilities. There are 5 elements of responsibilities which we should all consider at all times. The first and most important is honesty. We need to be very, very honest and clear and transparent in every action that we perform. We need to not only respect our colleagues, not only respect our businesses, but we also need to respect Mother Nature and everything else that it brings forward for us. We need to be fair in everything we do. We need to be judicious and fair with every person and every resource that we interact with. We need to be accountable for our actions. This is very important, because if we do not stay accountable, somebody at the end of the day has to pay, and it may well be our children or our grandchildren. And we need to have the courage to do the right thing at the right time, no matter how difficult it is. But there is a plus there. There is more than this that we need to do as a part of our responsibility. And the first one there is to be fair to the source. And by the source, I mean Mother Earth, who is the source of everything that we see and hold and use today. So you have to be very, very fair to that, because if you are not, Mother Earth is not going to let us live very peacefully. Do not abuse the ecosystem under any circumstances. Treat our planet with respect and preserve it. This is the best thing that we can give to our children and our grandchildren as our heritage. Preserve and respect the ecosystem. Treat all our cohabitants with respect and fairness. By this, I mean treating everybody with whom we interact, whether it's a vendor, whether it's our employee, whether it's our customer, whether it's our colleague. We need to treat everybody with respect and fairness. Basic principle, I'm sure you've all heard this. Do unto others what you would want others to do unto you. If you follow the simple principle, you are by default going to be treating everybody with respect and fairness, because that's how we would love to be treated. Treat with respect and pay fair wages. It is not a good idea. And that is why I think fair trade has done so well, and people are willing to spend so much more and consume so much more when they know it is fair trade. Pay fair wages. In fact, I can tell you in India, where I work from, and I will be taking you through some of it, the government has set a minimum wage. But we realized as soon as we started working that that minimum wage is not really going to be able to give them their 2 meals a day, forget the breakfast. And that's when we realized that fair wage is not what the government dictates is fair, but what you think is fair and what you really think that person deserves. So need to pay fair wages to people. You need to offer them an environmentally clean workplace. They cannot work in the dumps. It is not human on our side to let them work in such conditions. And you need to offer them and make sure that they have the proper resources to do whatever task it is that they are doing. So how does one manage the ecosystem? The ecosystem management process has certain goals. And the goals are, first, to conserve major ecological services. The day you start ignoring this, is the day that Mother Earth is going to shake you up in whichever form that you deform it without knowing it. So you need to conserve major ecological services. You want to make sure that you restore natural resources to the maximum. I'm not saying it is 100% doable. I'm not being an idealist. But I definitely want to be as practical as possible and make sure that we do the best that we can. And you need to make the needs of the current and future generations go hand in hand with all this. Because otherwise, what business is there? You need to be sure that the social economic texture, fabric that this generation wants is maintained for them. You need to be sure that the political atmosphere that needs to be maintained is maintained for them. And you need to be sure that the cultural situation, cultural scenario that this generation wants is offered to them. All of this may not be offered by the topic that I'm going to discuss, which is about bringing back, going into the future by bringing old and the past back into it. But there are ways to do it. And I'm going to take you through an example of how we did that and how we have been fairly successful, happily successful, but immensely happy and grateful that we did something like that. So we need to have an ecosystem that continuously takes care of the evaluation of social values. Social values change every day. And all these changes are the only thing that is permanent, to use a cliche. So we need to make sure that the ecosystem is continuing to change and evolve with the social values that are present during that time. We need to set the right priorities. What has happened most often that I have noticed is that the only priority in life today has become money. Money has become everybody's God. But really, let's take the COVID case. What are we doing with our money right now? I'm sure most of us are reduced our expenses and still being very happy. So money is not the end of the world, nor should it be your God. So set the right priorities. All of your environmental and ecosystem should be location-based, because what will work at the Arctic is not going to work at the equator. Everything needs to be location-based. You need to ensure achievement of the desired social benefits. The social benefits that one requires and hopes for and deserves are different for every region. The social benefits of, say, within India itself, let me give you that example, of what a person staying in a city, a metro like Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore, what social benefits he wants and he wants to achieve are very different from the benefits that a person staying in a smaller village called Gondagaon, which I will refer to again a little later, that is where I make my Dokra product. For him, a cycle is a progress in life. For maybe a person studying or working in Mumbai, a BMW is a way of life. Each one's social benefits differ on his social status, on his location. And that is why I said all of your ecosystems need to be location-based. You need to accommodate and react to natural and man-made shifts. It is unavoidable. There are natural shifts that keep happening. There are man-made shifts that we create. We need to be able to accommodate and react to them pronto before it gets out of hand. And you need to attempt to achieve biological diversity. This is very, very important. And of course, sustainability. At the end of the day, we do everything because we want sustainability as much, as far, as long and as well can be done. And of course, there is a lot of scientific knowledge available. And people who are into Hinduism, who know about the old cultures and the old colleges, the Inca civilization, the Hindus, you will realize that there is a lot of scientific knowledge that one can get from there. 4,000 years ago, in India, people knew how to do heart transplants. And people today are referring to the Sanskrit manuscripts that were and have been documented, which people still decipher to know about how best to do a heart surgery. So decode the scientific knowledge of the past. So what do the advocates of ecosystem management tell us? They tell us protect the environment, maintain healthy ecosystems, preserve biological diversity, and ensure sustainable development. All true, all completely true. And there is no arguing against that. But then, what is very interesting is what do the critics tell us? The critics tell us that all this are new labels for old ideas. And that is something that we need to think of very, very deeply and very, very clearly. Definitely, most of us would agree that the world was a better place a few years back, many years back. I remember when I was a child, 5 of us would drink from 1 bottle of Coke, and none of us fell ill. There were no cell phones, and yet we knew how to reach out to the other kids in my neighborhood so that we could go and play. So there were things that were in place where the ecosystem was very sustainable, very pleasing to the earth, but yet achieved a lot of what? In fact, are we really better off with cell phones? I mean, somebody has 2 cell phones. And I always remember a WhatsApp message that used to be forwarded a few times back, that 1 phone is a necessity, 2 phones is a luxury, 3 phones is extravaganza, but no phones is bliss. So we need to really look out for the old ideas and find out what of those are still applicable and useful to us. So what are we going to do today? Today we are going to talk about how the past can inspire us. We are going to talk about leveraging traditional crafts to create modern product. We are talking of globalization a little bit, very briefly. We shall talk of innovation processes. Most of all, we are going to talk of leveraging the traditional crafts, determining the processes, and partially, to the best of authenticity, modernize those processes to get better results and better product, as is the demand and the requirement of the current generation of consumers. So, what do we mean when we say inspiration from past? I say that to keep your creative tank full, try referencing designs of a bygone era. And we do that all the time, especially in jewelry. You will find so many collections that are based on old architecture, on flowers, on nature, on various things. These are all bygone era product, which we are referencing, which we are taking inspiration from to create modern day-to-day product. And if we designers, developers, and marketers are aware of what can be done, we can start to move past this norm restricted processes. We can actually innovate using older technology. And that is why I little earlier mentioned that we have to learn from the science of the old. And therefore, if you are aware of what can be done using and thinking about those science processes, we can move past what we do today to come out with better product, with less destruction of the earth. And remember one thing, the consequences of today are determined by the actions of the past. And if we agree to this, we also need to agree that the consequences of tomorrow are going to be determined by the actions of today. And therefore, if we are not going to be very careful today, there are going to be bigger and huger challenges in the future. For the future, the past is a golden reference. I know there are warriors who have said this, but I can tell you with personal experience in jewelry manufacturing that the past has been a golden reference. And you will be surprised to know, and I will show you sometime later, but the lost wax casting process was actually found and practiced by tribals thousands of years ago. Of course, they came across it as an accident, but then they learned the process to make it into one craft, which is called the Dokra craft. So to change your future, please look into the past. Learn. And what do you learn from the past? Learn from your past mistakes. Learn from your past successes. Rediscover lost passions. And most of all, rediscover lost processes. In the past, generally speaking, I would tend to be really, and I'm a chemical engineer by education, so I know a little bit of what I'm talking here, is that those lost processes, with, yes, tweaks to make them more efficient, can be far less polluting and far cleaner processes achieving the same results. Yes, the cost may be more. As we know now, everybody wants organic food, but it's more expensive than the one you grow with fertilizers. But you want it because it's more healthy. It's the same principle everywhere else. So look forward to the new. Always keep looking for the new, but keep the past in your sight. Do not lose track or knowledge of what the past gave you. So coming to crafts now, which is my passion actually, I run a company called Alcraftist. It's a play on the word alchemist. Just like the alchemists used to take base metals and make gold out of them, I wish, we try to take old crafts and make modern, well-designed, well-manufactured product without losing any of the originality of the craft, including the location where it is made and the materials that they use and the processes that they follow. I will show you that in some time. So some of the things, like take saris, for example, how they've evolved and how they've gone global. In the same way, brass work, you will find such boxes and such statues all over the world. And people want them. People desire to have them. People think they are beautiful and that the craft is just wonderful. And then this is Dokra craft that I'm talking of. I work extensively with this craft. I'm going to show you some of the jewelry I made. But what you see on the left in the top was the traditional Dokra craft. Dokra craft, as you can see, if you can see the pictures well enough, is actually wire work kind of work. And they used to traditionally make only gods and goddesses out of it. Then they started making animals like. And look at what is the modern version. What you see on the right here is a beer mug made using the Dokra craft. Look at the way the mug is made. Look at the handle of the mug, which is a form of a human being. And all this is done with wire work. So this is what we are talking about, going from the traditional to the modern without compromising on the craft or the processes. And of course, we have yoga. Yoga has become a multi-billion-dollar industry, and where it started, where it ended. If we do a talk on yoga, I think I could go on talking for 2 hours, and that at the end of that, I'll probably say, oh, I need more time. I'm just not finished. And then there are a lot of other Indian crafts that are there on the international scene. We have blue pottery. I'm sure you have all seen blue pottery plates and cups and mugs, which are white with blue painting on them. And then you have seen the Madhubani and the Pad paintings. And then you have seen cane and bamboo, everything, furniture, baskets, anything. There's so many things that can be made. You've seen paper mache, which is made out of paper with nice intricate, hand-painted, every piece is hand-painted using colors that are natural dyes made out of various natural substances. And Theva art, which is another art of jewelry. If you have not seen Theva jewelry, definitely please go ahead and search for it. It's going to be something fantastic. And then there are crafts on the international heritage, which are on the global scene: Spanish ceramics, Italian glassworks, US Native American crafts, Chinese enameling, Balinese horn carving. These are all the crafts. Now, what is handicraft? Handicraft is the original technology. It is hand tech. That was the first technology ever developed by man. And it is born out of a man's need to create with mind and body. It is of ancient origin. It is a heritage. It has a very rich and diverse culture because each of these crafts come from a particular region, from a particular tribe, in fact. It has traditional beauty, dignity, form, style, and aesthetics. And it has versatility in use of material and product, depending on where it is practiced. So innovation is using all these to come up with modern product. I am not going to go into types of innovation. You probably all know it, just to say that there can be incremental innovation, disruptive, architectural, and radical innovation. Okay, this is a small film on what the Dokra is all about. Okay.
Dokra is an ancient craft of metal casting that comes from India. A few metal objects found in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa have a very strong resemblance to the Dokra objects and figures, suggesting that this craft originated during the prehistoric times. Prepared by the community of Ghadwas, Dokra objects are scattered all over the Bastar region in India. The term Ghadwa means the act of shaping and creating. There is a legend in the Bastar region regarding the origin of the craft. In prehistoric times, when the first tribals were roaming the forest hunting for food, they found a strange thing in the jungle. On closer examination, it was found that due to the heat of the forest fire, molten metal had poured into the grooves of a beehive, where the wax had melted away. Tribes soon learned the art of molding metal and used it to make images of mother goddesses and other deities.
That, friends, is the origin of lost wax casting processes. There are handicraft challenges. It is a local trade. They do not have international experience. They do not have global understanding. They are fragmented, regional or tribe-based. They are highly labor-intensive because most of them are all handmade. And it's a cottage industry. Okay, and they use very simple old-school tools. But some of these challenges are what makes them the desired process. So when we say the future is in tradition, I'm now quickly going to take you through the steps that we as Alcraftists took to come out with creations on the Dokra craft. Okay, so first we pinpoint the potential. So we started looking at various crafts where we thought we would be able to use that craft to create modern, interesting, desirable product. Okay, and we studied various crafts. We studied bamboo, we studied Dokra, we studied cane, we studied a lot of crafts. We studied bidri. Bidri, by the way, is engraved by hand and inlay work. Okay, and then we studied Dokra, which is going to be these are the Wally painting products that are available. So we studied all of these crafts, paper mache, chitri, wood carving, and pottery. And then we studied the suitability, whether that craft is going to be suitable for the kind of product that we want. And once we had studied the suitability, only after that did we start developing a few designs, test designs, to see whether those craftsmen, because we don't want to uproot the craftsmen and bring them to any other place. We want them to work with the same technique that they were working. So we then developed designs which could be manufactured the way they were processing things from the study that we made. And these were our initial set of designs. As you see, everything is with wire work. Now, once we did this, then we started testing and training, because they always need some amount of retraining to make sure that the product is coming out as we desired. So we started testing and training the craftsmen to get the kind of product that we were interested in. And then we started modernizing mechanics to a certain extent. To give you an example, the original furnace that these people used to use for melting the brass was fanned by a cardboard. Okay. Once we saw that, we said, okay, this is too much. So we got them a bellow. So they would pull on a string and the bellow would blow air into the furnace. Then we realized that they get tired of doing that also. So now we have a bellow that is connected to a stationary cycle. So they exercise on the cycle. And as they exercise, the bellow moves. And we have modernized, but still no use of electricity. We could have easily gone and given them an oven which would run on electricity and which would give them the product that we want. But we did not want to lose the authenticity with which that craft is practiced. And therefore, we modernized mechanics to the extent. In fact, when we started work in this village called Kundagaon, there was no electricity in the village at all. Now they have electricity since the last 3 or 4 years, but we still do our entire process without using electricity. The only place electricity is used in a manufacturing process is as overhead lights rather than lanterns. But the process itself is still using no electricity. So we help them to modernize mechanics in this way. And then just give you a quick look. I'm going to keep jumping the video because it's a 5-minute long video and I think I'm really running short of time. So I'm going to quickly show you so that you know how the process is practiced. So this is how the Dokra is made.
The first step in creating a Dokra article is to obtain a basic form of the desired object in total abstraction using mud, rice chaff, and anthill mud.
So these are the three
mud
things
is sieved before mixing
that
to clean out the
instead
impurities.
of investment powder.
Being extremely porous and fine, it is able to bring out the best details of the basic model. Also, during dewaxing, it is calcareous, while others burn out completely. Mud used preferably is field soil since it gives a better finish. 25% of the mold is also made of cow dung. Once the basic structure has been made and filed, a smooth surface is obtained and is coated with a mix of water and alcohol. There is no preparation needed to make the wax. Any wax from the market used to make candles can be used here. Although there are variations available, honey wax is used because it is slightly harder than normal wax and therefore easier to work. Also, the sturdiness means that it doesn't change shape while putting the first layer of sand. The wax is then melted and put in a bucket of water.
What the hell? I don't know what happened. Okay, can somebody help me? What happened? Andrea, can you hear me? Should I stop sharing and start sharing again?
Sorry, I had my camera off. I would try stop sharing and sharing again. It looks like we had a bandwidth delay.
To convert it into a sleet
form. There we are.
The previously made loban is drawn into thin wires by heating and pulling. It can further be used to create the jali work, which are intricate motifs and patterns made from the loban for the final piece. First, the runners are fixed. Runners are channels created in the mold to allow the metal to flow and fill up the entire area with the minimal amount of resistance and left out to dry. Another underground furnace is prepared and fired to strengthen its walls. It has a connection to a motor that constantly pumps in air to facilitate combustion. Scraps of brass are put in a crucible which is lowered into it and fired. Other alternatives like bronze cool too quickly. Since the metal must reach all the nooks and crannies, it is a requirement that it should cool slowly. Kiln. Fire bricks are ceramic based and can withstand a temperature of 1400 degrees Celsius. Terracotta based bricks can bear a temperature of about 800 degrees Celsius. Molds are placed on the upper part. These are separated by an iron mesh and a few rods are placed to support the mold. The wax melts and is vaporized and the negative cavity remains, encased in the soil mixture. The molds are held upright in sand and the liquid brass is poured into the mold. The metal flows into all the negative cavities and takes the shape of the mold. It's completed. The fired and casted molds are hammered. On being broken, the fired mud is separated, it becomes black, and the solidified brass pieces are taken out and washed. Since it is done on a clay model to save wax, the clay inside is hammered and taken out as well. The final piece is ready. The unpolished look of the brass gives it the ethnic look to die for.
Okay, so once we have that, then we follow product precision. We teach them how to get as accurate as possible. But trust me, you will not find two pieces identical. And then we create collections. So this is the final product that we manufacture using this same craft, this same technique. As you will see, it is something that everybody would love to use and wear. And if you notice, something I'd like to highlight here, this is a bracelet where you can see the back of the bracelet. Every single piece of jewelry has a back, which even fine jewelry does not always have. We are that careful, we are that immaculate in our production. This is the front and back, as you can see. And we can do this in different designs. And we have a huge collection doing this. And then we monitor the manufacturing. So I have somebody from my team who visits these people in those villages, stays there with them. There are no hotels in that village, stays there with them once a month, sometimes twice a month, depending on the orders, so that we make sure that the manufacturing is happening properly. And then we come to India, get the pieces to Bombay.
At the factory, they try to maintain the basic form of the Dokra piece, but reduce the weight to make it wearable as a jewelry piece. A master mold of the gold and diamond part of it is prepared in silver and then sent for casting. A silver masterpiece of the final design is sent for casting and filing. The Dokra and gold elements are placed together to get a feel for the final piece. The gold part is then sent for diamond setting and polishing. The final piece is ready for quality control and is then sent off to the real world for some pretty lady to wear.
Okay, I would like to highlight one thing here, is that you would have noticed that we did not solder the brass piece, the original Dokra piece, with the gold piece that was made in the factory. This is because if you solder, then if you want to refine the gold, the brass is a damper. It does not let you refine the gold very well. And that is why we use those two, this thing, and then use a nut to tighten it and join them together. No soldering. And of course, something that we do all the time, which we should be doing for any damn thing we do on earth, relentlessly refine. Make sure that every day you are improving on whatever it is that you are doing. And retail reaction. This is something that's very important for us. I myself have actually spent days sitting behind the counter, listening to the questions that consumers come and ask about the craft, about how the product is made, and what we have learned a lot from them. Some of them have come and given us suggestions on how we can improve our product. Retail reaction is a very important component. And finally, don't deliberate, just do it. I think Nike has said it very, very well. Don't deliberate, just do it. So all this can be globalized, and there are many advantages. When you globalize, you are getting into a global economy. You have increased interconnectedness of national economies. There is integration of economic, political, and cultural systems, and it puts the East and West together in one global village. In fact, we have now started coming out with collections that are truly a blend of Eastern and Western designs and crafts put together. So you have access to larger markets. There are so many advantages of globalizing, but I think one of the key advantages is that you get a much higher value add because the whole world cannot compete with you. Okay, here this is not going to go by somebody asking you what is the price of gold and what is the price of the diamond and what is the labor that you are charging me. No, they know that this is an inherent product that is made by hand, and therefore the price is not the criteria. Okay, so again, I'm not going to go through this, but we need to have a hybrid culture if you want crafts to be globalized. And I think that is working for us. As I said, we are making now product that is a combination of a craft from Korea along with a craft from India. So there are collaborations and a hybrid culture that will create new end product. Not only new product in terms of the craft and the processes, but also a new product in terms of application of the product. Is it a boon and a curse? We'll need to decide. So this is the heritage and how the future goes. This completes really my main thing. And the simple thing is there are brainstorming rules. Defer judgment, but make sure that you have rules to break old rules. If you do not have rules to break old rules and those old rules keep persisting, there is no future. There is no improvement. There is nothing that you can do till you start breaking rules and going up with new rules. So reverse innovation is actually something that we should be looking at. Normally, innovation comes from developed countries to undeveloped countries, and then they try to tweak the product to make it economically viable for the undeveloped countries. Reverse innovation is using the technology, using the science of these underdeveloped countries, using their systems, and then upgrading it so that it can work for a sophisticated consumer in a developed country. So this is actually a very important component of responsibility and ecosystem management today. Look for reverse innovation because inherently it has less pollution, it has less use of chemicals, and it is much purer and safer for Mother Earth. I've created some posters. If any of you want this, please email me. I will send you the JPEGs. There is a poster on innovation and there's a poster on Back to the Future. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I am now ready to take any questions that any of you might have.
Hemant, I'm afraid we might have time for one question because the next session is due to launch shortly. And I just want to say somehow in 45 minutes, you took us through a course in business ethics, an introduction to lean manufacturing, and a course on preservation of craft. And it was all so succinct. It was just glorious. So thank you. That was amazing. I know Susan wanted you to tell the audience about your gems and how you acquire gems and make gems. And you have 3 minutes to do it if you can pull that off.
So what we do with our gems is currently we are sourcing all our gems from just one vendor in Jaipur. And the reason for that is that he is the only vendor who has been able to convince us that he is transparent, he is ethical, he pays a fair wage to his workers. And we have gone and checked his factory at least, 10 times in the last 5 years. And we have always found his factory to be a clean, healthy environment for his workers to work in. Of course, the bonus that he got because of one of his practices is that he serves lunch to his workers every day. And he eats the same lunch. And when we are there, we eat the same lunch. So it's very simple. He has to tell us where he gets his rough from. He has to tell us, give us in writing that all of it is being processed only in his factory and not being subcontracted. Okay, if it is to be subcontracted, we have an agreement which says that he will only subcontract to a factory where I can go and check that factory out. So this is my way of sourcing color stones, and I think we have been very happy with it. And well, we are getting everything we want. There are some stones that may not be available because he doesn't cut and polish them. I can live without them, very frankly. It's not that I'm losing business because I don't get those stones.
And that is the perfect answer for responsible sourcing. Ask and ask and ask all the questions, verify, keep verifying. One verification is not enough, and look beyond the material supply to how they treat their people and their environment. So that, in a nutshell, is what we all need to be doing.
This is what we do. In fact, we have a standard form that we have designed, which every vendor has to fill up. And if he doesn't know English, we help him to fill it up, but he has to fill it up.
Excellent. Well, Hemant, thank you so much for this presentation. We've loved it. I'm going to send you a link. I'll send it to you via email after my next session to your live page on the event site, because there's a chat box. And and you guys, Hemant's the only person who didn't need to be trained how to use this system. So there is, I'd encourage you guys to live chat with him on the event site, because I know you have more questions, but we're just out of time to answer them, okay?
And you can use my email. I promise to answer you in 48 working hours, depending on how many I'm busy, but 48 is a safe one.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again. Have a wonderful duo.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for hosting us. If Susan is listening, thank you, Susan. It was great speaking to the team, and I'm really happy. I can see some of the comments that are coming in. I'm very happy all of you have enjoyed the talk, and I hope we can do this more often. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah, bye-bye.